Welcome to another episode of The Mechanics of Poetry. This is season 2, episode, 18. There's only one more episode after this one, that's right. And, we do one-on-one, look at 3 poems by a poet to enjoy them. And today's poet, I look over at the name and it's not the name that I know.
Give them the name you know.
Yeah, Lola Rodriguez, and sometimes just
That's
Rodriguez.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we'll let Rodriguez have her say before we bring up the first poem. Go ahead, say whatever you like.
Oh, hello. I love poetry. I love writing it, especially when the muse hits and it just sort of flows. Sometimes it's a little work. Even today, one of the poems that I'm going to share, I did a little tweaking on. So it's almost like a living thing for me. There are always new words you can add, you can take things out. I never feel quite finished with them, even when they're published.
Yes, it's legendary that poems are not finished, they are abandoned. Right? Famous poet said that once.
Well, they do get abandoned, they do get left behind for other works. I'm writing a book, so the poetry, unfortunately, for the past couple of months has been on the back burner, but it's coming back to me. It's all coming back to me now. So I have 3 poems to share today, and I hope you enjoy them.
Okay, poem number 1.
Share screen.
The screen share process, where we learn about the expertise of the poet.
Okay, so how come when I click on it, it's a selected window? All right, I selected it.
I'll give you a little rundown. Step 1, of course, is being sure that, oh, you got it. I don't even have to run it down. There we go. We got it.
Well, we kind of got it. This poem, in honor of the High Holy Days, which are happening right now for Jewish people, is called Tashlich, which means to cast off. It's a Kabbalistic word, and it has to do with many different aspects of Judaism. I would assume it's like casting off your sins for the year. This is the time, Yom Kippur is the time of atonement. I'm not Jewish, but I'm kind of an observer. So I like to just learn new things. And so with that, I will read this and we'll all learn something. Tashlich. I cast my sins upon the water. The ducks and geese eagerly devour them, then gripe and honk loudly when there are no more crumbs. Feathered sin eaters. I smile, for what should I atone? What have I done to another? Whom have I wronged? There is nothing I can think of, just that one time. Maybe it's that I'm wearing white long after Labor Day, a hard reminder that I live on the edge and shall return to dust soon. The High Holy Days say so. My rubber soles squeak as I walk home, not to temple, never there. Buy tickets to pray, where you have to pay to say the Kaddish. I have said it so many times for so many loves who have gone before me wearing white. I am the Kaddish. So this poem has a lot of references in it. As I said,
you want to go back to the start of the poem?
Yeah, I think so. When I say I cast my sins upon the water, that's a symbolic thing that some Jewish people do, is they'll take breadcrumbs to a lake or a river and throw them out, casting off their sins, and the ducks and the geese eat them. And that is just a symbolic way of getting rid of the past year and all the bad things we did.
Yeah.
And I was raised Catholic, so I always have this thing. We have, in Judaism, we have Yom Kippur, and then we have Lent, where we go back over the year and think about what we did, and it's a time of atonement, mirroring the 40 days Jesus spent in the desert. So I'm smiling because I can't really think of anything that I've done that's really bad. So I just,
Yes, you should atone for that extra space between smile and for.
Oh, ouch. Oh, thank you.
That's my editor's eye.
I love it. Ta-da.
Uh-oh. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just got big spaces. Oh no, that felt like two. Oh, well.
Doesn't it look like two? It looks like two to me too. So
it's a venial sin. It's a venial sin. Go ahead.
It's venial. It's not a mortal sin. Exactly. Yeah. Also, the reference to wearing white after Labor Day is kind of a joke. But traditionally, white is worn during this time of year for Jewish people. And a lot of the prayers and so on remind us that we're mortal, that we're human, and that we're not always going to be here.
I'll say one thing. I love a poem that asks questions. You don't see that in enough poems,
Well, sometimes I have a question, but I don't have an answer.
Well, they can be rhetorical questions.
They are, in a way. Yeah. They are rhetorical.
Yeah.
So
moving on.
So this time of the year, the High Holy Days, this is that time of year where you confront your own mortality as well. And
yeah, quite a line there. It says, a hard reminder that I live on the edge and shall return to dust soon. Wow.
Well, it's true. Maybe
it is.
Maybe it's
Everybody
my
needs
age
a reminder
too. I never would have written this in my 20s or my 30s, or even my 40s. I wouldn't have written that because I didn't feel it. But now, at my age now, I feel it. I know this is like the long slide home, So
the mountain is going downhill now, right? It was going up, but now it's going down. Believe me, I know all about that. Hey, my favorite thing in this poem?
What?
It's coming.
Okay.
My rubber shoes squeak as I walk home.
My rubber shoes squeak as I walk home. Another
the sound image.
Another symbolic thing that Jewish people do too is not wear anything luxurious during this time. So
wow, I didn't know that.
They wouldn't wear leather shoes. So they'll wear tennis shoes or, whatever. So my rubber shoes squeak, the ducks and geese honk, and I walk home. Because we walk at, the Jewish people during this time would walk to shul. They'd walk to temple. They don't drive. It's a time of, really getting kind of down and dirty with yourself.
Which leads me to my largest question, the one that anyone would ask if they did not know, and I don't know. Kaddish, is that a ceremony?
The Kaddish, that's coming. Okay, so we're wearing rubber shoes. This time of year is the most popular time of year for Jews to go to temple. So a lot of temples, I would say 99.9% of them actually charge you. You have to buy tickets to get in to pray.
And that's because it's too crowded, or what?
They just,
or it's a way of
they could just make money off of it. They're just making money off of it. And I just think it's incredibly crazy to do that to people, but they do, and depending on the temple, they cost a lot of money to buy tickets to go in to pray.
So you can literally pay for your sins.
You can pay for
Yeah,
your sins.
there you go.
And
It might make some people feel good. Hmm.
saying the Kaddish is also a tradition. It's the only prayer, the only Hebrew prayer that's not in Hebrew. It's in Aramaic,
Mhm.
and it's a prayer for the dead. And it's traditionally said at this time of year. And it's interesting because it praises God, but it never mentions death. It doesn't have any words of death in it. It's more of a prayer praising and thanking God.
But what about that the penultimate stanza though? That really it's got something else to say, right? I've said it so many times for so many loves who have gone before me wearing whites. That's very interesting.
The traditional burial for a Jew is to go back to the earth the way you came into the earth, with nothing.
Wow.
So they're buried in a white shroud, and that's all.
Wow.
So sometimes I feel like I've lost so many people, so many loves, and that part, unfortunately, is true. And I can say I am the Kaddish because I am those words. I've just lost so many people. So
Strong ending, a very meaningful ending.
thank
Have
you.
you ever, I'm just going to ask a flighty question here before we move on to the second
Yeah.
poem. Have you ever heard in the news about someone dying that was your age?
Of course,
Doesn't it get you?
it really does.
Yeah, same here, same here.
It really, really does. I mean, I lost a brother. My older brother was 53 when he died, and
2 years older
so
than when I was referring to. Yeah, yeah. That's the big clue, everybody, for those watching this. All right, well, I mean, it was just some famous comedian died yesterday or something, and
yes,
he
Neil
was my
McDonald.
age.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was,
61.
that's right, my age. Okay, the cat's totally out of the bag now.
Well, it's out of the bag for me too, then.
Let's go to the second poem. Let's go to the second
Okay,
poem
let's
because
do
I got to
that.
keep this keep it moving
Gotta
here.
keep people interested.
Just keep it moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk to you all day, but the problem is I have to load this on YouTube, and that's the killer part.
All right. Is this showing
Yeah.
up or no?
So far, so good. I mean, oh yeah. You're trying to get the next poem up.
Yeah. No, now I will right now.
So as long as you can see it, then go to Zoom and bring it up. Yeah. Oh, you know what you're doing.
I'm trying to know.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Old dogs can learn new tricks. This poem called "Lament of the Spirit"
Mm-hmm.
has some truth to it for me, and it's still though a piece of art. I posted it on Facebook, and all my friends were calling me, "Are you okay?" Yeah, fine. I just wrote it. It was cathartic to write it, and
Yeah.
it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'll just read it.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
I haunt my own house. Like a restless spirit, I wander from room to room, listening to the steady breathing of others. I move silently through the 3,700 square feet as a wraith cannot sleep. A beautiful home it is. A cage is still a cage, and I watch through the bars. Being of solid form and not a real ghost, I cannot move between them to set myself free. It almost happened once. He did not love me enough to use the key of his heart to unlock the cage door.
Mm.
Now what passes from my heart sears my chest with each hard thud as I stand at the bars, watching time sprint past on its endless marathon. So that was pretty self-explanatory, right?
Can I hit you with the editor's comment first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Last line,
Okay.
no apostrophe.
Oh
This
God.
is a common. This is one of the most common mistakes
No, but
humans make.
I know better than that. I think
Yeah.
sometimes when you're typing, it just turns up whether you want it to or not.
Yeah, that's the trouble with spell check and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's almost better without it.
It is. It's correct without it, because I learned a very hard lesson when I was in college, when my professor pointed out my mistake of this exact nature to the class. I guess he was trying to teach the class too. So he said, Mr. Campbell over here, very formal, Mr. Campbell does not know grammar. And then he points out my mistake. What a way to learn. Boy, I really learned that one the hard way.
Yeah, some teachers, some professors are really in the wrong profession. I mean,
well, I forgave him because he did a nice thing later on.
Oh, well, but as long as he made
Can I tell you the nice thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to finish the story. And then we're going to really get into this poem, people. Because this is just, personal legend. So this professor, he was a famous poet, and I can say his name, I guess it's safe to say, Henry Coulette, passed away back in 1989. And so there finally came a moment in his class. I took his class more than one should, because you can only take it 3 times, creative writing at Cal State LA. You could take it 3 times for credit. And I took it 9 times just so I could be with him, because he was just a marvelous teacher, except for the part we just talked about. And then the thing that balanced that all off for me was he had the class do villanelles. And he went up to me in front of everybody and he said, Don, he called me by my first name. I was really thrilled. Don, that was a brilliant failure. I was so moved.
Yeah, I'd be moved too. Brilliant.
And now back to the poem.
Brilliant failure. Yes. Oh my God. I don't know if I like that guy. Why? I don't know. I know you hold him in very high esteem, but I don't.
I'll tell you one thing I love about this poem right away. This poem, the way the lines go, it's like they're creeping down. I haunt my own house like a restless spirit. I wander from room to room. It's giving just enough information, listening to the steady breathing of others, which is a fabulous line. I move silently through the 3,700 square feet, and that's where we all get jealous, the great square footage.
That's why I put it in. The main reason I put it in wasn't to make you jealous at all, but just to kind of show that, sometimes you can have everything and nothing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Hey, but then you took a great imaginative leap. As a wraith cannot sleep. So right away, image in my head of the haunting. I've got a real image in my head. And then you go on to say, even though it's a beautiful home, a cage is still a cage. And I watch it through the bars, and it makes me wonder if you have bars on your windows.
No,
I do. You don't.
They're self-imposed bars.
Yeah. All right, that might be one thing you want to make clear, because when I did read that, I was thinking, oh, this house has bars on the windows.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you said being of solid form, that reinforced my notion that it was real bars.
How would you like to reword that? I watched.
You want to fix that? Let's see.
Self-imposed is kind of.
Self-imposed is probably your best bet. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer.
I'll change it right now. Whoops.
Being of solid form and not a real ghost. So that was a good letdown. I liked it. I cannot move between them to set myself free. So that's, they are psychological. It almost happened once. He did not love me enough to use the key of his heart to unlock the cage door. You got the heartstrings there going, that's for sure. Now what passes from my heart sears my chest with each hard thud. That's really good tactile. Another sound image. I'm a huge fan of sound images in poems. And what was the ending? The ending was, as I stand at the bars watching time sprint past on its endless marathon. So there's that awareness again. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good poem.
this it's a true story. There was a point in my life where things really weren't terrific.
Yeah.
And in my relationship, and I, had to make a decision, stay or go. And my daughter was very little, so I made the decision to stay. And then I'll forever be second guessing myself. But it is what it is, and this is.
Yeah, we all have to endure something, that's for sure. Oh my, that's another story I'm not going to tell right now. Hey, I have one last question before we move on to the third poem. Sure. Did this poem, I forget, did this poem have a title?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, you're good. Okay, next poem.
Okay.
Lament of the Spirit.
Stop share. Okay.
These backgrounds make me feel like a spirit because you come and go if you watch where you go and the hands disappear.
I just totally lost you. Just a second. There you are.
I have faith in you. You got the first two up. I am a believer that you will get the third one up.
All right, this one, well, let's see what happens.
Meanwhile, I admire that lovely cabinet that I used to have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was my bookcase.
Well, it was right here, but it's not anymore.
Okay, maybe you can go for the Kaloki record of how long it takes you to find a poem. He's got the record. No, you did not break his record. Oh, wow, where'd it go?
It's gone.
You click on one of the versions. Is it called Woman of the something?
No, that's somebody else's work. Oh, that they wanted me to.
Yeah, just check one of those at the newest one. Thursday, is that the newest one?
This one.
There's a Friday version of one called The Santos Home.
Yeah, that's from the novel that I'm writing.
This is the one you want, right?
This is it, San Serapio.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, this one was inspired by a painting at LACMA. I went to see a Caravaggio exhibit, and this painting was not by Caravaggio. And I can't remember the name of the artist. It was a Spanish artist. And it showed this saint being martyred, of course. That's why he's a saint. And he had a very peaceful, slightly smug look on his face, I thought, while he was dying.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. And so maybe the poem will be self-explanatory. Poor saint, offered upon the altar of sacrifice for no good reason and every good cause. San Serapio in his agonized glory, his face enraptured by his submission, at peace with his decision. Dear martyr, all your eating and drinking and loving is over. Beyond your pain is the awareness of self-sacrifice, the smug satisfaction that your unselfishness is for God, and you are merely an instrument through which he works his miracles. Wonders that a humble saint could never comprehend, because they are God's ways and they are too mysterious. Inexplicable to simple San Serapio, who knows only that he must thrust himself upon the sword of God's enemies,
Hmm.
and by doing so, be in communion with the mysteries of faith.
Strong finish, but I want to go back to the start. Well, this is an ekphrastic poem then, because you were inspired by a painting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
like to think every poet gives us to go at least once. Mine was Saint Bruno. Saint Bruno, the Vision of Saint Bruno. That was the name of the painting.
How interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I
And
was
you wrote,
trying to capture his emotion just like you did. You did a great job of capturing his emotion.
thank
You
you.
have,
I'd like to
where is
see
it?
yours too.
Well, you know, I'd have to dig it up. So another episode. You said, in his agonized, glorious face, enraptured by his submission, at peace with his decision. That's really marvelously complicated. I love it. Yeah, because it's, you know, it's multidimensional. He's agonized, he's enraptured, and he's at peace. That's really interesting.
Well, yeah, obviously suffering, you know, he being murdered.
Yeah.
But he knows he's doing it for God. So that's the bigger reason. And so he's at peace with that.
Yeah, and you weren't finished there, that's for sure, because then you go on to say, beyond your pain is the awareness of self-sacrifice, the smug satisfaction that your unselfishness is for God and you are merely an instrument in which he works his miracles. Wow. Wow, that's got that dichotomy, right? You're doing good, but you know it. Yeah. But that's still not my favorite part. I said it already. The ending. I want to get to the ending now. Where's the ending? Where'd it
Oh,
go?
it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we've heard all this, you know, he's a marvelously complex person. And then you said, inexplicable to simple San Serapio, who knows only that he must thrust himself upon the sword of God's enemies. Talk about biblical image. And by doing so, be in communion with the mysteries of faith. And that's capital, mysteries of faith. Yeah, strong ending. Strong
Yeah,
ending.
once a Catholic, always a Catholic. I've been recovering though.
You know what I would love, and I mean, this is almost true, always true. If there was a way to get this poem next to that painting so people could see both.
Do you know, I did do a presentation for another group where I had a copy of the picture with the poem. I wish I could, I wish I could do that now. But how?
Well, this is a
But
natural
anyway,
segue into the last thing we need to do anyway, but did you want to say something first?
no, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
the painting
Yeah.
itself was disturbing because it was so peaceful. There was no blood. His vestments were pristine. He had his arms out like this. There were ropes around his wrists. His
Wow.
head was down like this, and he had that
Yeah, that's very,
peaceful yet smug little look on his face, like, you know, I know why,
that's the
I know
focus.
why
That's
I'm
the
doing it.
focus. Yeah.
So,
Well, let me ask you this, because I mean, again, I'm mindful of time. These have been three marvelous poems,
thank you.
and I want the people to know how they can get their hands on the poetry of Rodriguez. How can they acquire this poetry?
I can submit it to Spectrum.
That's a very good way. It's a very good way. I'm a big fan of that.
All right. If you have any other suggestions?
Are you planning a book someday?
You know, I had a professor who said, "Why don't you do a chapbook?" And you know, but I may do something. I mean, if you think if my poetry is worthy of a book, I would be happy to put a book together.
Well, here's something. I'll say one more thing then. So this is going to serve both for you and for the outside world. Four Feathers Press There's a press I started just for chapbooks, right?
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't have to be a long book. It could be like 20 poems or even 16, and that would be okay. If you
Okay.
could get together a collection like that, I would love to publish your poetry. I would love to. I
Thank
really
you.
like this poetry.
Thank
So
you.
that's just, I had to put that in there. Four Feathers Press.
Four Feathers Press. I knew about
Yeah,
Four
yeah.
Feathers. I just didn't think Four Feathers would ever be interested in my stuff. But if you are, I'd be more than happy to share it. More than happy.
Okay, so if you can take away the screen share, I want people to get one last look at you. Look at the emotion on her face, everyone. There it is. There it is. Yeah.
I'm just
Troubled poet.
portrait artist.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to conclude this recording so we can be free.